Hello and welcome to another installation of Tech Talk. Boys are back. It is Friday and Mikey Mike has got hopefully something juicy. Give it to us, Mikey.
So this week we're going to talk about external market pressures. A pretty broad topic, but I suppose that can be a couple of things like pricing pressures out there in the market. Hard to get decent staff and putting staff on board. That's always a bit of a pressure that I hear from people out there. You know, the educated customer, as far as people hopping on the interweb and glossy magazines and seeing products that they believe they're going to finish up with at particular costings and things like that. All these sort of pressures, I guess, tooling and products, the plethora of tooling and products that are out there on the market that are constantly coming at you as far as what you should and shouldn't be using, you know, constantly fine-tuning and tweaking your processes for your different outcomes. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it's just always those pressures out there on the market, and it depends on how you look at them. You can cop them square in between the eyes, or you could actually roll with the punches a bit, use the negative as a positive, maybe get some metrics out there if you haven't seen Daniel's background, and get some sort of tools of the trade and things to get these sort of things to work to your advantage. Who'd like to kick off? I'll put a bit of a broad subject out there. So,
okay. So everyone, get ready for this. It's about to take about 3 to 5 hours to discuss this one, Mike. Broad.
That means we're going to have a bit of a conversation around the subject, but it'd be nice to see lots of comments and questions come through down below.
I had a word in mind after, you know, your intro is probably evolution of the industry, and as the quality is rising and the tools, how do we go about measuring that, you know? How do we know good from bad, in between, all that sort of stuff? So I think evolution.
Daniel, it's behind you. It's behind you.
I think this discussion is actually really a sign of where we're at as an industry. I think it's a really great thing that people are, this is the feedback that we're getting consistently. And I think it's a really good thing because it tells us from a market maturity where we're at. There's so many things here that we could see that Mike's mentioned as roadblocks for us as an industry right now, but I actually see them as being really, really good affirmations. The fact that hiring is difficult tells us that we can't just get any mug off the street anymore, because you need to have a good amount of skill in order to install. You know, the educated client that got to see something in a glossy magazine. Well, thank goodness it was glossy. That means that there's so much information out there for customers to become educated and to be able to make good decisions on what they actually want. We're not turning up on site and having these arguments about what they had in their mind as an idea by description. We're actually able to go onto site and execute exactly what they're after, because it's pretty clear in their minds what they want. So it's out there, they're seeing it, and that's driving the demand. This is a fantastic problem to have. And pricing pressures is also fantastic, because it means that if there's pricing pressure, that means that there's an opportunity to have discussion about what they want, what their budget is, and what they can actually afford with what they've told you their budget is. So these are all really, really good things, great opportunities as an industry that we didn't have 10 years ago, because we didn't have all of these what we're considering problems today, which are actually great opportunities. Milan, from a business perspective, what does this mean?
From a business perspective, I guess I can go from, my experience in the industry, and there's a whole lot more polishes and a whole lot more quality work out there now than when I first started. And I know for me, quality was one of the things that I focused on. And when I first started out, there was not much control on which tooling I was getting. There was no system. Training people was really difficult in a sense that it was confusing to train them with. There was no system in place, nothing that made it easy, because we were always chasing quality, but we didn't know how to get there, right? So until we found a system that really worked for us, that's when we elevated our quality, because we can replicate it from one job to the next. But also what we got out of it was all of a sudden staff retention, because we can train them, they have the confidence. We can then send them out on their own. they have a sense of ownership, and the business grew from there. So I guess having measurables in place will, set you apart from the competition as well. So being able to understand what you're delivering, and if you're delivering what you promised as well, I think that makes a big difference to your business.
Measurables and metrics, Dan. What are your thoughts about measurables and metrics? You've got the big word behind you there.
Yeah, metrics. We've seen a big growth in the industry over the last 2 years with of rising quality. A contract is really putting a lot of time and effort in training, and also trying to make their craft a lot better. But I guess what comes straight to mind based off what Milan said and the subject we have today is how are these things measured? Because you could have someone out there thinking, hey, I'm producing quality floors out here, and you have a glossy floor, but how do you know it? Is it actually a quality floor, even though it looks shiny? How strong is this floor? How long is this floor going to last? What did I just put into the floor? What kind of tools am I using? How do I measure how good my floors are? So I think as a whole, be interesting to see what's coming into the industry as it's developing, to see how these things are captured and measured. And as also, like you mentioned, Josh, earlier, customers are also getting a lot more savvy and getting out there. Actually, it was Mike that said it. They're getting a lot more savvy. They want to know what is involved in that. Am I getting the best for my buck? So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking.
So what kind of tools can we use to measure this? How do we know if a floor is good?
It's shiny, man.
Yeah. How good? How many likes does that have on Instagram? Is that a good way to tell if the floor is good?
What
do we got? I know there's a meter out there. There's a meter.
No, it's scratch tester.
Oh no! Don't do it. Pull out the most.
The meter, is that what they mean by meter rate?
That's right, Mike. I think that's a great idea. The more gloss points and the higher the DOI, that's the meter. That's the price. So you want me to go higher? We get higher recording. So what did I just drop out into the conversation there? A gloss meter, gloss and DOI meter. So gloss is going to tell us how glossy it is. DOI is going to tell us the distinctiveness of the image. And what we've learned over the years is that distinctiveness of the image really tells us in mechanically polished concrete how long that floor is going to last, because it's been put together really well. If it's been put together well, we get really strong high DOIs. Mm-hmm. If it hasn't been put together that well, we get low DOIs. And you can still have really high gloss and low DOIs, but that floor is not going to stand the test of time. So why are we actually talking about these figures? Well, basically because the frustration that we're getting from the marketplace is what we talked about earlier. These things that have been raised to us as being stumbling blocks or frustrations that we really see as opportunities to be able to now articulate more value around what you're doing and professionalize yourself as an organization. And what you will find that will do is it'll actually make it easier for you to sell multiple different products. And when I say multiple different products, a few weeks ago we brought out the XD, which has the capacity to basically polish from 200 grit all the way up to 5,000 without having to put a traditional resin on the floor. And it does it faster. And a lot of the questions that we got was, well, why would I use traditional resins anymore? And I'll tell you the reason why is because you won't get the same DOI readings. You'll get glossy floors, but you won't get the same DOI. So it's not going to have the same longevity as a floor that's been through all of the traditional processes to get the high gloss and the high DOI. Mm-hmm. Running the diamond impregnated pads such as the Tempo XDs is going to be faster, but you're not going to get the same DOI. So the quality of the floor is not going to be as great. But that to me is a different product that you can offer to your customer, but you need to be able to show them the difference. Having a gloss meter with a DOI actually shows them this. And therefore you can differentiate the two different types of products that you're offering, and therefore you can differentiate the cost structure on those.
I was going to say, aren't those those metrics and measurables you're talking about, aren't they going against all the metrics and measurables that we already have in place? But, oh no, we don't have any in place, I guess, where we're coming from.
Can I ask, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I guess the other thing that comes to mind, especially with measurables and things like that, and what are these measurables are based on, how can we measure them, and also how can we maintain them? Because obviously, depending where we're gonna create a floor, depending in which setting we're creating the floor, that's gonna have a particular amount of wear. And what do I need to do, and how can I maintain this floor and able to keep them? Obviously, by foot traffic or particular types of effects of influence to the floor,
wear and tear.
That's going to have an impact on the actual DOIs and the gloss levels and the strength.
Over time, yes.
Yeah. I think this is a really open, like Mike said, it's a broad topic.
Yeah,
don't do it. Don't do it.
Lots of comments below. It'd be good.
Yeah.
As we mentioned before, creates those pressures in an evolving industry, and now I guess, lack of a better word, the hunger to produce real good quality floors is really there. So it's going to, with measurables in place, there's going to be accountability eventually from bad floors to good floors as well.
Having measurables in your system and actually marketing those measurables as part of your business makes a big difference, because as we can see, people are these days able to generate some really great looking images just by getting nice and low on those floors, and it's difficult for customers or would-be customers, potential clients, to differentiate your performance or your product between another. And if you're not getting in front of them, or if you're not getting them onto your floors to see and experience the difference, they need to be able to see that difference demonstrated to them. So having some measurables that you can actually show will show the performance difference or metrics between your product lines, your different product lines, but potentially also the difference between your products and competing products.
So basically that educated customer that enjoyed educating themselves, you can continue that education with them hand in hand, that someone else might not be quite doing with them, and they'll see real value in it. As opposed to the educated customer that Josh mentioned before, has the glossy magazine, thank God it's glossy, walking into the real estate agent saying, look, this magazine's great, but do you have something more in a matte finish magazine? That'd be really good.
The other interesting...
I think you meant a newsagent.
The other interesting thing is, obviously, we're not talking about gloss, we're not talking about strength of floors and longevity and things like that. How does it apply, Josh, when we're talking about a low sheen floor, which are a lot more popular these days? And I feel, most guys that I talk to, they don't generally go maybe once a year, if that, over 400. So 1,500 floors or 5,000 floors are very rarely done. Is there a way for us to measure the quality of the floor in a different way? Is there ways around that?
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned the DOI before, and what you can get with a floor that hasn't been, that's finished at a home, like a 200, is that it can have a fairly low, it's naturally going to have low gloss, that's what we're aiming for, but it can also have a low DOI. Now, these floors typically will wear faster than a high gloss floor. They're just not as resistant to abrasion. But a well-profiled, a well-built low gloss floor, satin finish, can actually get a good DOI to it. So we build up a floor, we start looking for DOI numbers instead of high gloss numbers. We actually build a satin finish that's got a long service life as well. Yeah. So yes, there are certainly numbers that we can be chasing in satin floors that actually determine how well put together that floor is, and give us a bit of an indication as to how long that service, or how long that's going to live for.
Durability.
Yeah. So like
durability, there's a good word.
So you could essentially build your floor up with your traditional resins, and then introduce your tempo, dial down that gloss without affecting the DOI. Is that kind of?
Well,
pretty much.
Well, this is where I was coming to, because there's going to be a low gloss floor, high quality, low quality, and the way I quite often speak to customers when especially if they're doing a floor that they want longevity. It's a large job, and I sometimes say polish it up to a higher grid, but dial it down so you build up enough densifier to get enough strength into the floor. So you're actually doing more work, but then you're undoing that by dialing it down to get the right look.
And
Yeah, so while I'm building those floors, I kind of go, there's a scratch. That's all right. I'm going to bring it down later anyway.
Yeah. Oh, love this topic. This is good. Interesting.
yeah, so we always use tooling to remove that densifier, don't we? Because you hear about polishing densifier and this false surface and things like that. So I know the terminology I've always been taught from you guys since I started is that we're always removing densifier, excess densifier that's been in and done its job. Because you hear people out there saying that, just polishing densifier to get this false.
Not just densifier, unreacted densifier.
We're removing the
only densifier.
Yeah.
Only densifier being removed. They're not calcium silicate.
Yeah. That's it. The densifier goes in the floor, not on top of the floor.
Correct. Yeah. Well, you hear people talking about, they're just polishing densifier, and I'm like, I heard that, and I thought, okay, I've never really heard that before. I've always been taught that we're removing the excess densifier that you've flooded the floor with, so the floor's had time to react, and you're removing the excess, so you then, therefore, the reacted product.
Yeah, the other interesting thing I find as well with measuring floors and having metrics around it, there's a very, 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 very small number of contractors that actually own a gloss meter. I know probably 2 or 3 people that own one. The rest of the contractors don't actually have them. I know they're not cheap.
Hey, Daniel, you don't have to have one. You don't have to have one. You don't have to have any variation between your product offerings. You can just continue lowering your price and eroding your margin to meet your customers' expectations.
Yeah, and then the next guy walks in that has got one and got to their business. On their product offering. So I think I know who I'd probably be hiring, and I'd probably pay more for them.
So what you're telling me, if I became a concrete polisher tomorrow, that'll be the first thing I should be buying so I can sell my floors and have measurables around it?
I would encourage people to have them as a tool for sales and for quality control on the delivery of the projects, on the training of in order to train your staff. You said it's hard to get people. Well, it's just become a whole lot tougher because the industry is getting so much more qualified, and you need to start putting measurables and metrics in place for quality control and for training purposes and for sales.
So if we have a floor that is 80 DOI and 90 gloss points, what should that floor be worth per square meter? Because they always say Melbourne has the best quality floors, right?
What should it be worth? It should be worth about, I think, $300 a square meter. All right, because what else? US. Because what else is the alternative? What other product is going to deliver you that type of life cycle, that type of ease of cleanliness, lifetime of maintenance in order to keep that in that same shape? What other product is going to allow you to do that? Nothing else. Nothing else. Carpet's not going to do it. Carpet's going to wear out. Carpet's going to have to be replaced. Man, you spill something on it, you can't clean it up. Engineered timber is almost up in that realm. Engineered timber is not that great. Damages quite easily and needs to be repolished on a regular basis. What else is there? You've got vinyl. Same deal. What comes close? What holds a candle to mechanically polished concrete?
Tiles.
Tiles. Tiles are not maintainable unless you're going for a natural stone, and they're going to be up in that kind of realm as well. That $300 a square meter installed. So, what should a high quality polished concrete floor like that be go for per square meter in Melbourne without even knowing how big that space is or how long it's taking you to put that whole thing together and what the costs are to your business? I've got nothing to work with, Daniel, but I think the market expectation on that should be about $300 a square meter. Why shouldn't it be?
Yeah, I agree. And like Milan said the other week, Australians are freaking house proud. and we know people don't flinch on quality. So,
bit of a question. If a floor has got, forget the gloss level, but has got quality built into it, would that make it easier for repairs as well? I'm asking the question. I'm
asking for a friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's so much easier to repair a well-built floor than it is one that isn't, because when you bring additional attention to it, if you like, to try to do that repair, it becomes very, very challenging to blend that back in and make it look seamless.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I assumed as much, but I didn't want to assume.
Yeah, just like trying to match up that the paint on that faded red Commodore, and you try to do a paint repair to that, and you can't do faded red.
Good one, guys.
Interesting topic.
Hey, I like this topic because
we did it in under 3 hours.
I reckon you could just continue on talking about this, because this is awesome. I love this stuff.
Stop it, Daniel. People want to enjoy their weekend now. They want to have a beer and just relax. They've had a rough week. They've had customers calling up wanting to screw them on price. They've had more demand that they can supply to, and they're just absolutely worn out. Okay.
Yeah, and
stop talking about it.
Metrics is my new beer label. Go to your local bottle shop, grab yourself a Metrics beer. It's in all flavors and colors.
Grab yourself a 5-pack today.
Excellent. Hey guys, so I just wanted to mention real quick. A couple of weeks ago, I've been meaning to find an opportunity to bring this up, but I'll keep it a bit anonymous. But a couple of weeks ago, I was out on site in a particular region of Victoria, and I was talking to a good customer who's been a part of that concrete grinding and polishing industry in that region. And we had a really, really good lengthy chat about he's really, really happy about how the industry is going out in that particular region. Communication between other grinders and polishers, and just the quality of work coming out is amazing. And he brought up the topic and he just said, I'm really happy. I mean, this is someone that's been in the industry for almost 20 years, long period of time, starting off when it all started off. And he said, the quality of work that's out there, they're all complementing each other, and just in that particular region. And he was just really impressed with how far things have come and how things are going in that region. So really nice to hear, really great to hear. And he said, look, I know you always talk about it in your tech talks and things like that, and I just thought I'd give you the feedback that, just how important it is and how good it is. So, I thought I'd bring it up for this chat.
It is great, Mike. And people got to remember that we're not out here alone doing this polishing in the concrete in the corner, in the dark. Everyone who's hanging on the end of a grinder or polishing those edges, be conscious that every hour that you're putting into this, you're building this industry. What you're doing every day is contributing to what everyone else is doing. To have that type of feedback is actually really, really encouraging, Mike, because, like I said, each and every one that's involved is building this industry.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And I guess
so keep it up.
As well as don't ever stop asking yourself questions. Is this a quality floor? Keep on working harder. Keep on improving the quality. Never stop. Keep on moving the industry forward.
Good one, guys.
Okay, I'm getting thirsty.
All right, gents.
Good stuff.
Thank you, guys.
Towards the fridge. I can see the light in the fridge peeking through, and I'm going to go and get some bubbly ale.
Have a great weekend, legends.
Cheers, guys.
Enjoy the weekend, guys. Bye.